Strategy shielding, to take precaution to prepare for any future problems or to sell a private brand to a leading brand, with the private brand having a higher margin. Insight, deep understanding of a person or thing. Fabrication, to generate misinformation, often without access to reliable sources. Strategy alignment, to ensure an organization's structure and use of resources support its strategy. Constructive reasoning could mean logic thinking, constructive dialogue, and intuitionistic logic. Info control, multiple meanings, indirect actions to control an object, then using the info to develop its own behavior. To limit access to info as a cover-up, using propaganda for combat, or data used to manage and coordinate processes within a system in computer science. Activities that ensure computer systems operate safely. Diverse thinking, the idea that people think in different ways and that these differences should be valued. Diverse reasoning includes inductive reasoning, automated model formulation, improving reasoning in a large language models, improving reasoning quality and diversity. Analytical, using analysis or logical reasoning. Psychological reasoning, the study of how people draw conclusions to make decisions and solve problems. Constructive thinking, analyzing situations, making decisions, and solving problems in a positive and productive way. Gaslighting, to sow self-doubt and confusion into the victim's mind. EP, educational plan is a student's goals and achievement levels and monitoring progress. PI, protective intelligence, is use of timely, relevant, and actionable information to guide protective strategies, tactics, and operations. Relational management, to build and maintain positive relationships with customers and other businesses. Achievement orientation, a motivational drive to achieve goals and improve. Conflict management, using skills, tools, and processes to address disagreements and disputes in a way that's respectful and creative. Organizational awareness, to understand the roles, relationships, and structures within an organization, and to use that knowledge to guide strategy and achieve goals. Conscientious, being responsible, careful, or diligent. Innovation, putting new ideas into practice to create new products or services or to improve existing ones. Interpersonal facilitation, to maintain interpersonal and social contexts needed to support effective task performance in an organizational setting. Interpersonal perception, forming judgments and inferences about others, including their personality traits, attitudes, emotions, and social behaviors based on direct or indirect observations. Intrapersonal facilitation includes self-reflection, emotional regulation, active self-listening, positive self-talk, goal setting, empathy, and seeking feedback. Intrapersonal perception, the way a person interprets what's going on around them and how that interpretation influences their internal communication. Intrapersonal management, to understand, manage their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Interpersonal management, to build strong relationships, improve collaboration, and achieve goals. Interpersonal understanding, to understand and interpret the feelings, thoughts, and intentions of others in a relationship. Emotional facilitation, to manage emotions and impulses in a group setting to help the group reach its goals. Emotional realization, understanding your emotions, thoughts, and feelings and how your conditioning works. Reflective thinking, evaluating and interpreting experiences and using that info to solve problems, make decisions, and plan for the future. Probabilistic reasoning, a method of inference that uses probability and logic to make conclusions more or less likely based on prior knowledge. Verbal reasoning, to comprehend concepts expressed through language, think constructively, and apply logic to solve problems. Win-lose reasoning, a negotiation style where one party wins and the other loses. Win-win reasoning, a negotiation style where both parties reach an agreement that satisfies each party. AP, Advanced Placement Psychology. Dynamics, to help people navigate the world in their relationships. Parallels, allows multiple agents to work concurrently on a problem, enhancing the speed and efficacy of the solutions. Clinical reasoning, thinking and making decisions that clinicians use when treating patients. Knowledge-rich reasoning, drawing conclusions and gaining new knowledge by combining two or more thoughts. CRI, Composite Risk Index, to prioritize safety management systems in aviation. Crystallized Reasoning Index, I guess, is the knowledge of reasoning or something. CFI, Cultural Formulation Interview, is an interview tool used in diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders to identify shortcomings in the OFC. Cognitive Flexibility Index, I guess, is having flexible cognitive abilities. EFI, Expanded Fluid Index, measures fluid reasoning and cognitive processes. API, Application Thinking Interface Info Processing Index. IPI, Integrated Portfolio Intelligence Info Processing Index. Selective Disclosure, releasing a new capability to provoke a response from an adversary. Collective thinking, approaching problems by using a variety of perspectives and experiences to examine a situation from multiple angles. EQA, emotional intelligence assessments, evaluates a person's emotional intelligence. Precognition, foreknowledge of an event. Systemical, relating to or affecting an entire system rather than a single part. The adaptive self-organizing ability within complex systems to optimize performance in dynamic environments, allows leaders to see their current reality, exposing them to all perspectives. Causal, to determine the exact underlying causes and effects of events or behaviors. Numerical, understanding and working with numbers, mathematical concepts, and logical reasoning. FS, multiple domain-specific faculties, describes the structure of intelligence. It's also fixed situation. NFS, non-fixed situation. IRL, applying cognitive abilities to real-life situations. CFI, Cognitive Flexibility Index, to perceive difficult situations as controllable, to perceive multiple alternative explanations for life occurrences and human behavior, to generate multiple alternative solutions to difficult situations. EFI, Executive Functioning Index, is a questionnaire that assesses executive functioning in daily life. It measures motivation, strategic planning, organization, impulse control, and empathy. API, Auditory Processing Index, to detect and process info in sound, including memory for sound patterns, maintaining rhythm and absolute pitch. RCI, Reading Comprehension Index, to understand written material in context. LMI, Logical Mathematic Intel, to use abstract and logical reasoning to solve problems, analyze issues, and perform math operations. LIL, linguistic intel to use and understand language effectively, including reading, writing, and verbal communication. SPL, spatial intelligence to perceive and understand visual info in the real and abstract world. MUL, musical intel to appreciate, produce, and learn musical skills like sounds, rhythms, lyrics, and patterns. EXL, existential intel, consider and reflection on deep questions about human existence. Financial manipulation, using lies and other tactics to control someone's finances and make the victim dependent on the abuser, including withholding money, preventing access to funds, controlling spending, sabotaging employment, coercing debt, hiding assets, and pressuring the victim to do something in exchange for money. Silent disclosure, tax evasion, also to sneak amend your prior tax returns to include previously unreported foreign accounts and knowledge income. Recording, sounds or images stored for reproduction. Reverse psychology, to encourage a behavior by advocating the opposite. Self-regulation, to understand and manage your behavior and reactions to feelings and surroundings. Self-awareness, to experience oneself's personality. Emotional agility, using your feelings as info to help guide you rather than trying to change or control your emotions. To recognize and understand your emotions and thoughts in the moment and to respond in a way that aligns with your values. Emotional resilience, to adapt to and cope with stressful situations, crises, and life's up and downs. Emotional regulation, to effectively manage and respond to an emotional experience. RLS, real life situations, events happening in real time instead of fiction. Already read these. Conjecture, an opinion or conclusion formed on a basis that is incomplete information. Double dealing, working to people's disadvantage behind their backs. White knight, coming to someone's aid. Event manipulation, intentionally changing or shaping events to convey a particular perspective or narrative. Effective fallacy, judging text on feeling. Introspection, the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional processes. Informal logic, attempt to develop a logic that assesses, analyzes, and improves ordinary language reasoning. It intersects with attempts to understand such reasoning from a point of view of philosophy, formal logic, cognitive psychology, and a range of other disciplines. CGEW, cognitive general efficiency weight, a unique numerical scoring system between anime characters. Selective disclosure, sharing material information with a limited group of people instead of everyone. Strategic deception, lying to achieve a desired outcome. Sophistry, use a fallacious argument with the intention of deception. Smearing, damage someone's reputation by false accusations and slander. Profiling, the recording and analysis of a person's psychological and behavioral characteristics to assess or predict their capabilities in a certain sphere or to assist in identifying a particular subgroup of people. Demoralization, a psychological state involving a persistent inability to cope with feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and a loss of confidence and enthusiasm. Subjugation, brings someone or something under domination or control. Strategy resilience, a set of actions or plans that help people or systems adapt to and recover from challenges, disruptions, or diverse events. Planning scope, identifying and organizing the work required to complete a project. Planning coverage, outlines actions and goals to improve coverage options and increase customer satisfaction. Spiritual intel, to connect with higher meanings, values, and purposes and use those connections to live a more creative and fulfilling life. EP, emotional perception, to recognize, understand, and interpret emotions in others and oneself. Scapegoating, blaming the wrong person or group. mental imagery to generate, rotate, and transform visual images in your mind, visual searching to search visually, pathfinding to find paths, cognitive reappraisal, changing how someone thinks about a situation to influence their emotional response, affective fallacy, the error of judging a text based on how it makes the reader feel, LRS, logical reasoning skills, POI, perceptual organization index, measures visual spatial problem solving, visual motor integration, and nonverbal fluid reasoning. VMI, visual motor integration, is visual perception, motor control, and hand-eye coordination. Vertical thinking, a linear, logical, and systemic approach to solving problems, analyzing info, and reaching a solution by following a structured path. Horizontal thinking, to come up with a variety of ideas by thinking in new directions, to be concerned on why a problem occurs. Pre-planning, planning in advance. Post-planning, final stage of planning process, evaluating the plan. Individual manipulation, self-manipulation, and lacking self-control. Raw manipulation, editing a raw image file. Complex thinking, a set of mental processes that involves analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information to solve problems. Already read this. Geometric understanding, recognize the properties of different shapes and how they align or merge based on sides or angles. Mental rotation, rotate sections in their mind to see their fit from different perspectives. Spatial reasoning, to mentally manipulate and visualize how two separate sections combine to make a larger cohesive shape. Quantitative reasoning, use math to analyze and interpret numerical info in situations to make decisions. Root cause investigation, identifies the underlying causes of problems or failures in the system. Diffuse thinking, relaxed state of mind that allows your thoughts to wander and connect seemingly unrelated ideas, opposite of focused thinking, which is attentive. Gardner's multiple intel, theory of people having different ways of learning and processing info. Improvisation, to improvise. Inductive cognition, reasoning based on patterns and observations leading to general conclusions rather than established premises. Formal logic, reasoning based on rules and principles used to evaluate validity of arguments, focuses on the structure of reasoning rather than the content of the argument. Conclusions are drawn through systemic application of rules, ensuring that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. Key components and propositions, connectiveness, arguments, rules of inference, and logical systems. Propositional logic, deals with statements that may be true or false, states logical connectiveness, evaluates validity of statements based on truth values of propositions, involves truth tables. Predicate logic, also known as first-order logic, is extension of propositional logic that uses predicates, variables, and quantifiers. Statements can express relationships between objects, properties of objects, and quantification over objects includes universal quantifiers, existential quantifiers, and domain of discourse. Model logic, type of formal logic that includes a model of operators which express modalities such as possibility, necessity, or impossibility. Evaluates how terms might be true under different conditions or worlds. Key concepts, possible worlds, Kripke semantics, types of model logic. Alethic model, which is concerned with necessity and possibility of terms of truth. Deontic model, concerned with obligation and permission. Epistemic model, concerned with knowledge or belief. Temporal modal, concerned with time. Critical reasoning, also known as critical thinking, analyzing facts, evidence, observation, and arguments to make conclusions or choices. TQ2, technology quotient. Oh wait, I already read that earlier. Power thinking has multiple meanings, organizing info by grouping it into main ideas, subtopics, and details. It uses numbers to indicate the level of each piece of info, creating stories, recognizing that thoughts are not true. However, people can make supporting stories, the goal being to make stories that are more useful and feel better than non supporting ones. Dark Triad describes three personality traits that are socially aversive and offensive, including Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. Machiavellianism, to manipulate others for self interest, often through deception. Narcissistic inducement, to inflate someone's self esteem for one's own motives. Psychotic inducement, to make someone else commit crimes in order to meet one's own goals. Ingenuity, being clever, original, and inventive. Street smarts, experience and knowledge necessary to deal with difficulties and dangers of urban life. Archivation, selecting and preparing records to be stored in an archive. Strategic implementation, putting a plan into action to achieve goals. Logic-based intel, logic elements, logic array blocks, and adaptive logic modules. Intuitive reasoning, a quick, unconscious process of decision-making based on past experiences and patterns. Statistical reasoning, using data to make sense of the world and to draw conclusions and predictions. Existential skills, to think deeply on the meaning of life and existence. Language proficiency, to use language to communicate real-world issues. Ability to read, write, speak, and comprehend. Interpretation response, a response that tries to structure a conversation by using framework, theory, or pattern. The goal is to share knowledge. Concealment, to hide info or activities with techniques or devices to go undetected. Dead drop, plant items, or message in common places. Camouflage, use of camo to deceive enemies and block their info gathering. Feints, used for info gathering, deceive enemies about timing or location of an operation, appear to threaten engagement. Gimmick, a trick to attract attention, publicity, or business. Capitalization, provision of capital for a company or the conversion of income or assets to capital. Suicide inducement, to manipulate someone into suicide. Self-management, management of or by oneself, taking responsibility for one's behavior and well-being. Introspection, already read that. Logic-based reasoning, uses logic and common sense to conclude based on given info. Intelligence cycle, planning, direction, collection, processing, exploitation, analysis, production, dissemination, repeat. Tactile intelligence, to use touch to identify objects, ability to grasp objects and feel objects slipping. Hoaxing, to deceive with a hoax. Deflection, avoid responsibility or blame by shifting the focus on someone or something else. Divide and conquer, to decompose a problem into multiple pieces and solve each of them. Isolation, to separate key variables, concepts, or patterns from a complex system for focused analysis. Planning depth, number of steps planned ahead when making a decision. Strategic foresight, gathering info about the future to help organizations prepare for change. Deductive, the inference of instances from a general law. Inductive inference of general laws from particular instances. Abductive is the same as abduction. Ideology, system of economic and political ideas. Planning framework, outlines the vision, strategies, and prioritizes a plan. Planning synchronization, integrates financial objectives, strategic goals, and supply network plans to unify business plans. Preparation process, getting ready for use of service. Deductive reasoning, uses general ideas to conclude something. Inductive reasoning, uses specific observation to reach a general conclusion. Abductive reasoning, same as abduction. Creative reasoning, to think creatively. Analytical reasoning, a problem-solving method using logic and identifying patterns to fill missing info. Abstract reasoning, to think about ideas and concepts rather than concrete objects. Holistic reasoning considers the whole picture and the relationships between different parts of the problem. Conceptual reasoning to think abstractly and at a high level, using that to solve problems. And I have to cut it here because I'm out of storage because my phone sucks. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.